Hello, everybody, and welcome to your favorite learning show. It is, of course, Mindset Learn Extra, and in studio today, it is, of course, me, Pumi, and Tara. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
What are we going to be doing today?
Well, today we are doing human impact on the environment. So what us as humans do to the earth and the animals and the plants and everything around us.
So it's all about us protecting the nature and
Protecting
the plants.
it, what we do to damage it, so both sides of it.
So could we say this is because of, what's this? The heat today, was it because of us taking care of it? Or probably not?
Good question. Depends on who you're speaking to. So we'll get
Okay.
into that a little bit later.
Okay, great
Cool.
stuff. I'm looking forward to all of that, guys. If you are also looking forward to that, please make sure that you join us today and right now, because it is definitely going to be an awesome show. Speaking of an awesome show, you guys know that we love giving you prizes. So please make sure that you check on our Facebook page. It is, of course, www.learnextra. That is where we have all of the other many competitions that you guys can be a part of. Speaking of which, tomorrow's competition is called the Get Connected. So actually, it's been running, but tomorrow is going to be the last day. So please make sure that you take part in it by simply voting for your favorite teacher and get them to win, be the best teachers ever. I know that some of you have those special teachers in your head that you're thinking that you should vote for them. So please make sure that you do all of that, because you could be winning yourself a Sony Xperia or Vodacom airtime. With all of that being said, guys, please grab yourselves a glass of water and join us as we are doing human impact on the environment. Join us, guys.
Right, everyone. I hope that you've got yourselves sorted. As Pumi says, you've got some water, got some paper if you want to take notes. Let's get going. Right, let's see if we can get this up. There we go. First thing, what do we always do whenever we have to start a session? We have a challenge question. And the one thing that is on everybody's mind at the moment with nature, animals, is the rhinos. I don't know which radio station you guys and girls listen to. I don't know which TV programs you listen to, watch, besides Mindset, obviously the best one to watch. But everything's about the rhinos. The rhinos are being poached, rhinos are being killed. So the challenge question today is all about the rhinos, and it goes as follows. The numbers of white rhino are decreasing due to poaching. So the two questions are, why should we stop this trend? And secondly, what can I do? Right, so Pumi, I'm going to ask if you can just keep an eye on the page, see if the guys and girls answer. They've got two parts of it.
Okay.
What can we do? What should we do to stop the trend? And then what can I do? And guys and girls, one thing, it's not good enough to just say, well, don't kill them because they're cute animals or we need them. You need to give a really good answer. Okay, so I'm looking for sharp answers today, right? I know it's hot and everyone's not in the mood for this because it's the end of the year and it's a Wednesday and all those brilliant reasons you're going to come up with, but I'm looking for really sharp answers. So Pumi's going to keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, we're carrying on. Okay, so we're starting with water availability. I don't know how many of you watching are fortunately enough to live at the coast. So you can look out the window and you can see the ocean in the distance. But that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about water availability. When we say water availability, we mean water that is available for our use. Water that we can use to cook, to clean, to water our plants, veggies, etc., etc. Okay? So nature has its own way of providing water, and that is through the water cycle. So I don't know how many of you remember this. I know in primary school, Pumi, I don't know if you had to do this. In primary school, you had to draw the water cycle, and you had to draw the clouds
I
at
used
the
to
top.
enjoy
You used to enjoy it?
Yeah, the coloring and putting everything
You
together.
see, me, no,
Awesome.
I didn't do color. You'll see I do like the green and the pink, and I'm terrible at drawing. So I'm impressed that you like the coloring and
Yeah.
stuff. Me, I wasn't so good at it. So when it came to drawing the water cycle, I used to draw like a block.
That was when
my
art
cloud.
meant, life science,
Ah,
all coming together.
right. I like it. I'm very impressed. Okay, so guys and girls, The water cycle, what we need to know about it. First thing, I'm going to start up here with condensation. Okay? You might ask why with condensation, because there's a whole lot of numbers. We've got condensation, we've got evaporation's number 4, we've got infiltration, which is number 3. I'm starting with condensation because it's one that we can see and we can then work from there. Condensation is when all the water vapor in the atmosphere comes together and makes our clouds. What happens then? We get the rain. You can see the cool pink rain. If it's raining outside, because it's raining outside the studio, this rain's not pink, but on the board our rain is pink. What happens then? All the water goes down onto the land and it gathers in the various places. Now, what are the important things that we need to look at? Condensation was the one thing. Precipitation, that's the fancy word for rain. When water runs down a slope, it's called runoff, another fancy word. When you have water sinking into the ground, as you'll see at the bottom here, I've just circled it, infiltration, that's the fancy word for water sinking into the ground, right? And at the end of this whole process, water then goes back up into the air, and the fancy word for that is evaporation. Now, I've drawn all over this thing, so let's just clear it up and look at the fancy words on their own. Condensation, again, the water vapor makes clouds. Rain, we called it precipitation. All the water lands on the earth, it either goes into the rivers, or if it lands on the ground, down the slope, it's called runoff. The rivers, it goes into natural areas called wetlands, or it goes into a dam. Sometimes dams are natural, other times they're man-made. Then it can sink into the ground. When it sinks into the ground, we call it infiltration. But it's got to get back up into the clouds. So how does it get back up into the clouds? We use evaporation, or nature uses something called evaporation, which means it gets nice and warm, becomes a gas, and it goes floating up into the air, and it hangs around until it forms another cloud. Now, for us, what does that mean in this country? I want you to have a look at this. This is a map of South Africa with cool colors. We've got the greens, we've got the oranges, etc., etc. What does this tell us? Look at a key. Whenever you're given a diagram, always look at the key. And the key says average annual rainfall in millimeters per year. Now, water availability for South Africa. We have seasonal rain. That means that we do not have rain everywhere in the country the whole year round. So you might have evaporation happening, and it might rain like today, and then it might not rain again for a couple of months, and then it'll rain again in June, July, and August next year. Or, depending on where you live, it rains in June, July, and August every year, if you're in Cape Town. It rains in October, November, December, January, February, if you're up here in Gauteng. Different parts of the country have got different rainfalls. That does not mean that you cannot have rain happening at other times of the year. That's what I'm meaning to say. You cannot have rain happening at other times. Oh, I'm getting myself so tongue-tied today because I'm getting like all about rainfall. Okay, so rainfall is seasonal in this country. It happens in the seasons, remember, like summer, winter, spring. What's the other one? Autumn. We've got 4 seasons, I remember that. Just because we have seasonal rainfall doesn't mean that it cannot rain at other times of the year. But the most of the rain will happen in a season. For our country, I want you to have a look at the map. We have in the very green areas, so look at this block here. You'll see the very green block. I've just highlighted it now. And then go and have a look on the map. Okay, guys, let's see if we can find a better color. All right. See, girls, we're going back with pink. All right. See the area where I've circled? All these dark areas here. That shows those areas where you've got greater than, so more than 801 millimeters. That does not mean that you're going to get 801 millimeters every year. It's an average rainfall. Sometimes you're going to get less, sometimes you're going to get more, but you should expect about 800 millimeters. But now look at this one over here. Look at this part in the top left-hand corner of the country. Less than 100 millimeters every year. So what does that mean for us? That means that the type of animal, the type of land, so in other words, the type of plants, type of soil in this part here, and the type of animals, plants, soil, etc. in that part there, they're going to be two different types. For humans, what does that mean? It means the following. If you live in this area here, where I'm drawing circles now, you're going to get very little rain. You're not going to have much rain. It's going to be pretty hot, maybe quite windy the whole year round. But if you live in this area here, where I'm drawing circles now, it's going to rain quite a lot. The types of plants that you can grow, maybe the types of food that you can grow, it'll be very different to this first area over here. So for water supply, the best place to live, Phumi, if it was up to you, where would you live out of these two? Water supply. Less than 100 millimeters a year, more than 800 a year.
More.
More than
More
100.
than 100,
You
yeah.
reckon this
More,
one?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Because water is going to be available all the
Because
time.
water is going to be available all the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
good answer. Except now, oh, sorry, I've just led you into a little bit of a trap there.
Okay.
I know, I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible, terrible
see.
person. I know, I'm awful.
But then I would also want to be in a place where there's a whole lot of water, so it's not really that bad. Not much of a bird person.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay, now, the reason why I said to you I might have led you into a little bit of a trap
Okay.
is just because we have lots of rain, just because rain falls out of the sky all the time, doesn't mean that we can use it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because
Yeah.
remember, with industry and all that sort of stuff, we're putting all sorts of chemicals and whatever up into the sky, and so then you might get acid rain and all that sort of stuff. So the water that we're getting out of the sky isn't always, or it's not as pure as it
That's
used to
true,
be.
yeah.
Okay, so for us to use it, we would still have to do a few things before we want to drink it, or maybe cook with it, or maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you'll see often people who don't have running water at home, if they have to go to rivers or if they have to go to, if they collect water from
Yeah.
rainfall, you'll find that they'll boil
They'll
their water
boil it,
first
Yeah.
before they drink it. Okay,
Okay.
so lots of water, yes, we want it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as pure as we want because we've
Oh,
done
yeah.
something to mess it up. Now, did you know? Ooh, my colors, pink, let's go pink. Did you know what we use most of our water for in this country? Did you know that most of it went on farming and forestry?
No.
I didn't either. Not until I started studying this section.
Okay.
Okay? And that only 12%. You guys can see me highlighting it now. Only 12% is what we use for at home.
Only 12% of
Only
all the water that we're
12%.
getting.
So think of how many times we bath or shower or how much water we use to cook. That's 12% of the water that's used in our country.
Quite interesting.
That's pretty interesting. Okay, so now this goes to human impact. So, guys and girls, I want you to think about this. What is the human impact on our water supply? What happens when we make dams or construct dams? What happens when we destroy wetlands? What happens if we've got poor farming practices? What are exotic plantations? In fact, I know we've asked the question already. Do you think we can ask another question
Yeah, sure.
before we go to a break? Because I'm sure there's a
Do
break
this.
coming up soon. Okay. I want to know from the guys and girls what effect the destruction of wetlands, poor farming practices, and planting exotic plants has on water availability. Those three things. So the destruction of wetlands, poor farming practices, and planting exotic plants. Okay, so guys and girls, destruction of wetlands, poor farming practices, planting exotic plants. Those three things specifically. See if you can give Pumi some answers. I'm looking for some good answers today. All right. What is it about those three things? Why do I want to know about those? All right. Going on. Water quality in South Africa. We are actually very, very lucky in this country. We don't realize it. We're super lucky in this country. We have got really good quality water. Yes, we do still have problems that not everybody's got good or does have access to water all the time, but we know that the government say they're working on it, and hopefully we'll come to a point in the country where everybody's got access to running water. But there are problems. We might have access to running water, but what are we doing with it? Okay, so the problems are this thing called eutrophication, and you would have come across it before. And it's a word that you're going to need to remember because you definitely need to know it in grade 12. Eutrophication, thermal pollution, domestic use, mining, alien plants. This is what we're going to look at now. Alien plants, it's exactly what I was talking about now, exotic plantations, domestic use, mining. We'll talk about mining as well. So we've got amazing water quality according to the rest of the world. But we're messing it up. And these are the ways that we're messing it up. We are putting rubbish into the water using industrial waste. So it could be that companies are using water for various things in their factory, and then they just dumping the water down the drain. That goes into our rivers, or it might go into our sewer system, but eventually it will end up in our rivers or in the rest of our water system. You've got this thing called eutrophication, which comes from fertilizers, when people are using fertilizers on their farmlands. Big problem, domestic use. How do we use our water at home? Do you just leave the tap running when you brush your teeth? Do you just sort of leave stuff running while you're running around doing other things? Okay? You need to think about how you use water because it's important for other people. Is it break time, do you think?
Yep,
it's time for a break. Okay, I must stop talking now.
All right, then, Mindsetters, before we take that quick break, let me ask you, have you joined the competition that we've been running, the Be a Bright Spark competition? Please make sure that you join it and make sure that you buy yourself this Safeway K53 book. You can buy it at any retail stores, and please remember that you can also download it on your Samsung app, Samsung cell phone. Download the application and get it. Remember that you guys need to keep the receipt. Do not throw it away. Keep it safe with you. And also remember that you can also share that link on your Facebook so that your friends can also get to join these competitions. And who knows, they might be walking away with one of the 4 Chevy Sparks. So make sure that you join this competition and also like the Facebook page right there on Facebook. It is Safeway K53. Remember, you're liking the page without buying the book is not really going to make you to win. So like the page and buy the book, and then after that keep the receipt, and then you will be standing yourself a chance of winning. Right now, guys, let's take a quick break, and more of these details will be posted for you right there on our Facebook page and also the Safeways K53 page right there on Facebook. Let's take a break. We'll see you after this. Welcome back from the break, Mindsetters. We are still doing life sciences today, and remember that you can post all of your questions right there on our Facebook page so that we can help you out with those questions, because this is actually our last live week. So bring them over and then let's just try and answer them. Right now, we have one question coming from Letlogonolo Khobane saying, what is a borehole?
Okay, a borehole is something that is drilled. So in other words, it is an access point
Okay.
to underground water. So you might, the area where you live or the land that you live on might have an underground spring or an underground water system or a river, and you now want to get to that water. So what they do is they just drill all the way down, put a pipe in. Sometimes they put a pump, depending on how far
Oh.
down, and then you can pump the water up and water your garden. It's not good for consuming, for eating, drinking, etc., because it hasn't been purified, but it's natural water. Remember that word that we used, infiltration?
Yes. Mhm.
So it's the water that's gone into the ground, and now it's collected in a nice sort of, whether it's a spring or whatever it is underground, and you can now get it up using a
Okay.
pipe or a pump or whatever it is.
So it's still safe to take it and boil it and use it.
I
drink
wouldn't,
Oh, okay.
because it does depend on the area that you're in. So if you're in an area that's
Oh.
quite close to sort of industrial or mines or something like that,
Mm.
acid mine drainage is a little bit of a problem. But plants, that's okay, because they will get the water out of the ground anyway. But I wouldn't go so far as to use it on food, not unless you're absolutely desperate and then we've run out of water totally in the country,
Wow.
which hopefully we don't do.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah.
I hope that you got that right, Lithogonolo. All of you mindsetters, if you also have a question in relation to what we're doing today, please make sure that you put it right there on Facebook, and then Tyra will help us in answering all of that.
Okay, do we have any other answers, any other questions? Because now I want to move on to food. We spent
Okay,
some time
no.
on water, nothing yet. So no one's answered my questions on exotic
No,
plants,
not
etc.
yet. Yeah.
Ah, you see, it's end of the year. Everyone's brain,
Yeah.
they're all thinking exams. Shh, fast asleep. Okay, guys and girls, food security. Let's just talk quickly about this, because what is it? This is an important definition that you need to know. It's when all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food so they can maintain a healthy and active life. Okay, that's according to the World Health Organization. That doesn't mean that you live next door to a McDonald's or you live next door to any fast food joint, and that means that you are now secure. And doesn't mean that at all. It means that you have access to good, healthy food all the time, and everybody has access to it. Okay? So it's not just, I'm okay, therefore my food is secure. It refers to your country, the area that you live in. So it's not just for individual people. And the 4 things that we need to know specifically are these 4: availability, accessibility, utilization, and system stability. So quickly, what do those things mean? You guys are too young to remember, but in the 1980s, there were really, really bad droughts in Africa, and people from Europe and from America, they sent lots and lots and lots of food to Africa so that people could get their food and could eat. They wouldn't die of starvation. So we had a problem. There was no food availability. Couldn't grow any crops, couldn't get any food, so there was no nutrition. People were dying. Problem, food arrived. So there was now food available, but this is where things went wrong. If we look at our 4 things, people didn't have access to it because it was sitting at the docks, or it was sitting in trucks, and trucks weren't allowed into countries. People weren't necessarily able to use it because perhaps they had to cook it or they had to do something different with it. And the system stability, there was a problem in that the people who were supposed to hand out the food weren't handing it out in the right. So there were other problems that made the drought worse. Okay, so just because food is available doesn't mean that people are always going to get it. So that's why those 4 things are important. You need to know them. Okay, next thing, we're whizzing through this section. Biodiversity, and this links into our rhino question. What is biodiversity? Again, you need to know this definition. It refers to the number and variety of different types of organisms in an area. Okay, please, this definition is important. You need to know it. Okay, so it's the number and the variety of different types of organisms in an area. You can see, I'm not going to go into all of it, but you can see, look at all these different things here. It's going to be on the notes, and the notes are on the Facebook page. But it's important that you look at these different points. Why is biodiversity important, and how do we maintain it? But most of all, make sure that you know the definition. Same thing goes for food availability. Know the definition of food availability, then you know how to apply it. Know the definition for biodiversity, then you can learn how to apply it. Okay, so moving on. Solid waste disposal. This is something that people really don't like to talk about, but it is something that we do need to talk about. When we talk about solid waste disposal, it is not it's not only, should I say, referring to feces, to human waste. It's anything that we use and we then throw away. So a plastic bag that you're not going to use anymore, you throw it out. Old pair of shoes that you now don't want, you're not going to give away because nobody else is going to wear them, you throw them away. That piece of paper that you don't want to get up and walk and take to the bin and you just throw on the ground. Okay? That is solid waste. So solid waste disposal is an important topic. So let's look at it quickly. Why is it so important? For the following reasons. We have an increased human population. If you don't know how many people are on the earth, you need to go and look it up, but I'll tell you quickly. There are 7 billion. That's a lot of people. 7 billion people means we use more stuff. There's increased consumption. So now there's more waste. Domestic, electronic, industrial, and hazardous or poisonous waste. Okay? Here's your definition of waste, something that you need to know again, another definition. Anything that is considered to be of no further use. Right, now, what we need to know. Again, all of this stuff is going to be on the Facebook page, but I want you to have a look at this. Okay? You see people talking about recycling. Guys and girls, recycling is important. Yes, it might be irritating if you've got moms and dads like I have. My parents were big into recycling. My mom is still very much into recycling. Paper goes into this one, glass goes into that one, tins go into that one. It is super, super, super important. The reason is we're running out of space. We've got too many people, not enough place to live, not enough place to grow food. Why? Because it's all being taken up by the rubbish. Okay, so we need to do stuff, we need to do things that are responsible. We need to act responsibly with our waste. So if you can reuse your waste, why don't you do it? Instead of just throwing it into the ground, just throw it in the rubbish and then they're just going to bury it in the ground, do something that they can reuse tins. They melt it down and then they make it into a new tin. Or the newspaper, they pulp it up again and then they make new paper again so that you can use your paper again. So please think about it. The next time you see something or you're eating something, you've had that nice chocolate and you're just walking along the road and you just throw it down, okay, stop and think. Because that you've just thrown down, either an animal's going to eat it or it's just going to lie on the ground and then something's going to go on top of it, more soil's going to go on top of it. Plants aren't going to grow there. All right, so you need to be responsible with your waste disposal. So if you have a look at this diagram quickly before we move on, all right, things that can be recycled. This is what is made from this example here. You see all the things in orange. These are the original products. In other words, they were made from, let's say, the newspaper. They cut down trees, they pulped them, they made the newspapers, they made the cardboard boxes. Now, what's happened is that newspaper, we send it for recycling, we can now make paper plates and egg cartons. So we can make 2 products by recycling one thing. Actually, in fact, recycling the boxes as well. If you recycle the boxes, you can make paper bags, you can make other boxes, cardboard for projects. So do you see, if you decide to recycle, what you're doing, your job creation, which is important, and the second thing is you are going to make, or you're going to reduce the burden on the earth. You're going to make it easier for the earth to recover from having so many people living on it. Okay, moving on. Now, Pumi, do you think anybody
Mm-hmm.
is ready for questions? Do we have any questions
Okay.
yet before I move on? Do we have any answers?
Right now we have 2 answers.
Two answers
and
to which
One
question?
is from, remember the question that you had earlier before the ad break?
Okay, the one about the
Yeah, the
exotic
options.
plants and the, yeah?
Rotondwa Valentine said,
Yes.
B, as an individual, I can start campaigns against rhino poaching and discourage rhino poaching.
Okay, this is
Which
for
is
the
quite
challenge
interesting.
question.
Yeah, for
Okay,
the
yeah.
challenge question.
Good.
And then she went on again to say, okay, now she went for a different one. She's
Yeah.
like, A, to stop the trend of rhino poaching, all rhinos can have their horns cut off without killing them.
Okay.
As poachers cut horns and leave them for dead, so I think they can be tranquilized and the horns cut off so they won't be killed as there won't be horns. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
So
she's
she has
saying,
two,
okay, so she's
yeah,
got,
two
because there were
different
two
views.
parts, there were two parts
Yeah.
to the question. Okay. And anything else?
It's Zolani Michael Mkombe. He's asking if he can get help in evolution. So it's really, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
Yeah,
not
so
quite this
that's
section.
really
So we'll
quite
have
the
to,
section,
we'll
yeah.
see if we can
Yeah.
help him just now. But going back to the answer about the rhinos, I liked the answer, especially to B, what can I do to get involved? There is somebody at Mindset, actually, who is riding in the 94.7 to raise money to save the rhino. Okay, so we might think, well, I don't live next door to a rhino, so I can't do anything. You can buy the Save the Rhino bracelets, you can talk about it, you can make sure that you are aware of it the whole time, but you can do things like ride in the 94.7. If you don't live in Joburg, maybe there's something in your area. Maybe you can have, I don't know, a cake and candy sale at school, and then all the money you can then send to the Save the Rhino. There is always something that you as an individual can do. It's more than just, oh, well, I don't know. There's always something that we can do. So if one lady can get on a bicycle and ride nearly 100 kilometers for rhinos, I think we can do something. Because I'm not riding 100K,
Yeah,
so I'll
that's
find
true.
something to do. Me and bicycles, we don't mix very well. But I will definitely find something to do. So I love that idea, the fact that we can do something. But to answer, yeah.
And another thing, given that, we love using our phones, you can just update your status, just tell your friends to, raise awareness or something like that. Just talk about it all the time, even during your break lunch at school.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good. That's exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
That's
And
what you can do.
also make people aware, like education. So why are they poached? Why are the horns cut? For what reason? Who is doing it? And is it true? So
Yeah.
the story is that it's used for medicinal purposes. Now, if you look up the various reasons as to why it's used, scientists then say actually the reason that people use the horn, it doesn't actually do what they say it does. So therefore we shouldn't actually
Yeah, we
have to cut it
shouldn't.
off. Okay, all right. So the type of answer we're looking for is what I can do. So I can get involved, I can do things myself, I can raise awareness, I can keep talking about it, post on Facebook, chat to my friends, all those sort of things. And then I can't say most important because that wouldn't be right. But the other important aspect is, what impact is this going to have? What impact does that trend have? Killing the rhinos doesn't just mean that, well, oh, sorry, you're not going to see the rhinos in the Kruger Park or in any game park anymore. It means more than that. Ecology, we're talking about ecosystems, we're talking about biodiversity. No rhino, whatever lives with the rhino, will be affected. Your dung beetles, your oxpeckers, all the little chochas, all the little things that are associated with the rhinos will be affected when the rhinos are no longer there. So it's not just one animal that's going to become extinct. It's possibly a whole ecosystem. So when we're thinking of save the rhinos, it's actually save the ecosystem. The rhinos just happen to be the biggest things in that ecosystem that we can see. So it's not just one thing, it's a whole lot of things that we're looking at. And because we're biologists, we are all about ecosystems. We're not all about just one thing. Okay? Now, the question is, how many people remembered the homework that Llewellyn gave them last week? Last week, Lou gave you the essay question. Now, I know it's not a language, and I know it's not English, or it's not Afrikaans, or it's not isiZulu or anything where you're supposed to write essays, but we write essays in biology. So we need to talk about essays. So you had some homework. You had to think about your essay during the week, and I'm hoping, has anybody admitted to not doing their homework?
Not yet.
No, not yet. No one's been brave enough, okay?
I would never.
So hopefully you have thought about the homework. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to go through it with you. We're going to talk about the essay from last week. So let's have a look at the board. We're talking about eutrophication, acid mine drainage. Two major problems in South Africa, right? So you have to write a mini essay describing. Now let's have a look what your essay must involve, or what it has to have in it. You have to describe what they are. So you can't just assume that the person who's marking knows what it is. You have to tell the marker what it is. You have to tell the marker what causes those things. And then you have to tell the marker what the effect is. So each one has got 3 things that you need to do. So for eutrophication, you need to describe it. Okay, so just to remind you, you need to describe it. Okay, you need to say what the cause is, and then you need to say the effect. That'll be the first part of your essay. Acid mine drainage, exactly the same thing. You're going to describe it, you're going to say what the cause is, and you're going to say what the effect is. All of that is given to you in your question. So you can't say, oh, well, I didn't know what to answer. The only thing you might not know is if you haven't studied, you might not know what eutrophication is or what acid mine drainage is. So let's do the first part. What is eutrophication? Okay, I'm not going to go through each one in detail because you will find the answers on the Facebook page, but just quickly, again, remember we have to say what it is. So addition of high levels of nutrients, especially nitrogen, phosphorus to water. Usually this comes from fertilizers, from areas where there's been lots of farming, okay? Or untreated sewage. So what are the causes? So there you've described it. It's the first thing that they wanted us to do, okay? Here, the second thing they wanted us to do was give the cause. So there's 3 causes. Untreated sewage, fertilizers, or fertilizer industries pour waste in. And then the last thing that you have to do, and this goes all the way down here, is the effect. Okay? Now you cannot just give one effect. There's 2 sections to this. So you're going to have to give 5 or 6 effects. You're not too sure how the marks are going to be allocated. You don't know if it's going to be half for eutrophication, if it's going to be half for acid mine drainage. So depending on how much time you've got left, make sure that you put as many facts that are relevant as possible. Obviously don't write for hours and hours, but as many facts that are relevant, you put down. So not just 1 or 2, I'd say put down 5 or 6 in this case. Okay, now the second part, acid mine drainage. Same thing again. What did we have to do? We had to define it or describe it. So what is it? It's the drainage of highly acidic water from mines onto the surface of the land or into the groundwater. We then, what else did they ask us to do? They asked us for the causes. So it's formed in groundwater. There's a cause. Okay, this one only has 1 cause. It comes from the mines. However, there are a lot. I'm going to go down here. There are a lot of effects. So again, Don't just write down 1 or 2. Okay, have a look at this. Water dissolves minerals out of the rocks. They form sulfuric acid, lowers the pH of water. Metals include heavy metals. There's so much on here. So we're going to put it onto the Facebook page. You can have a look. Use it as a reference when you're studying. Acid mine drainage, eutrophication. Very topical at the moment. It's something that South Africa is struggling with, especially areas, Gauteng, going up into the Northwest Province where the mines are. Lots of mines, lots of problems with the water. Okay, so it's something that you do need to be aware of. Even if you don't write an exam on it, something that as biologists, we need to know.
Absolutely. We need to know all of that and more. Guys, please tackle that challenge question that we posted on our Facebook page. It is, of course, www.facebook.com/learn extra. That is where you can get the challenge question and just test yourself and see how far along you can go with answering the questions. Right now, let's take a break. We'll see you now. We are back from the ad break and we're still doing life sciences, and Tara has been asking you guys a whole lot of questions, so please do jump on over to our Facebook page and try and answer as many as possible so that we can be able to help you in responding to all of those questions. Right now, Tara, let's take it away.
Okay, all right.
Great stuff.
So we've actually had quite an interesting break because
Yes.
there's lots of answers coming through to our question, to our challenge question. But let's do these questions first, and then I think we'll come back to the challenge question. Okay, so question 2. Question 2 is about food availability, and you see that there's a table here. It's on the notes, guys and girls. So don't worry if you can't see what I've got on the table. But let's just go through. This is a data question. So in other words, you're given the data, you need to just look at the table and then answer from there. So straightforward, what was the most consumed food product in South Africa? So how do we do that? We look at the question, we go back and look at the table. At the top, it gives us product, per capita consumption, expected demand, expected requirement. Here, consumption is the word we're looking at. So the most consumed food product will be in this column. Okay? Now, this word, per capita, we need to talk about. Right? It's a word that means per person per year. So don't worry about it. If you see it, don't freak out and think, oh my goodness, what is that? It just means per person per year. Okay, so to answer our question, the question was, what was the most consumed food product? We have a look up and down, and it looks like it's going to be maize, because that's 174,6, and the unit's going to be kilograms. So if I check my block, 174,6 kilograms per capita. Please note, it's a 2-mark question. Okay, so you can't just give the number, the unit, and say per capita. Just be as thorough as you can. The next one, name the least consumed food products. The same thing, same column. Have a look, the one with the smallest number. It looks like it's going to be pork. Let's double check. And again, number, unit, and per capita, because it's for 2 marks. All right? So let's have a look. Question 2 is continued. Some more table. Okay, this table gets longer and longer. Let's have a look what this part says. The product is still there. Now, this is slightly different. This is current production in 1,000 tons. So that's a mass value. If you're not sure what that is, that's a mass value. And then this is a difference between projected consumption and current production. Just a tip. Whenever you have a data handling question like this, even if you've never heard of some of the words, you've never seen some of the words, doesn't matter. Always look at what the title of each column says, have a look at what the unit is for each column, and then from there, you try and work out what the table means. Okay, so always just have a look at what's going on. All right? So even if the words are big and scary and you're not too sure, the titles will usually help you out. So quickly here, table gives the current production in 1999. I'm just going to do this one because I want to get on to talking about the rhinos again. Table gives the current production in 1999, and it estimates how many tons of maize are currently required in South Africa in 2014. Okay, there are a couple of ways to do this. You can do this the very scientific, very mathematical way, or you can do it by just having a look at what we've got. So the current production of maize in 1999 is this one. Oh, maybe I should use colors. 7299. We, in 2010, used 1072, and in 2020, it's 3064. So 2014, our current year, so let's just get the numbers down, 7299. So 7299 was in 1999, and 1072 was in 2010, and 3064 is what we should get in 2020. So 7299 and 1072. So let's say this is approximately 8,000. And that is, I'm sure that there's a 10 missing there. I think that's supposed to be, oh no, okay, I'm looking at the right. So the difference is, what are we looking at? So if we go approximately 8,000, 1072, so the difference is maybe plus minus 2,000, okay? If we go from 1072 to 3064, the difference is halfway between is roughly, let's say again, plus minus 2,000. But have a look now. Between 1999 and 2010 is 10 years. Between 2010 and 2020 is 10 years. In 2014, we are almost halfway between the two. Okay, so now this is where you need to use a little bit of logic. If you're a super duper math student and you're doing AP maths or you're good with your statistics, you can do the mathematical calculation. If, like the rest of us, you've got to have a look at the sort of averages and try and work it out from there, do your best guess. Okay, so we're going to look at halfway between 2010 and 2020 is going to be about 2072. Otherwise, so we're looking at approximately, I would say, give or take, add another 2,000, so it's going to be right about that, 20 something.
Okay, Tara, before we can move on over to the next question, can I please interrupt you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Mindsetters, let me please remind you that this is our last week of Learn Extra Live, so you can always just catch the exam school classes shows next week. So we'll be having all of those, so please make sure that you keep in contact with us right there on our Facebook page so that you can also ask us questions. You can even jump on over our help desk for further more questions because we are actually pressed for time. But without any further ado, guys, let me quickly remind you about this special competition that we're having. It is hashtag Be a Bright Spark. So if you think that you are a bright spark, better make sure that you like our Facebook page and also like the Safe Ways K53 Facebook page so that you can get to learn a whole lot more about what you need to do in order for you to enter the competition. So make sure that you also keep the receipts after entering the competition. And I need to leave you with a very interesting question. Do you know of somebody who's bought a license? What are your views on that? If you have all of those, please make sure that you tune into our next show where we will be giving you a link of where you can get to see the videos of some of the interesting comments that we heard about what people do to get their licenses. It's actually quite crazy out there, hey Tara?
Oh, it's mad.
It's really
It's absolutely mad.
Absolutely. All right then, guys, it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for tuning in. For me, Pumi, Tara, and everybody here at Mindset, it is bye-bye.
Bye.